Peacemaker isn't just DC's crude, violent punchline. He might be one of the most fascinating characters in comics and TV today. And I know that sounds wild. He's the guy who once said he loves peace so much he'd kill for it.
I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it.
But here's the thing, behind the goofy helmet and the crude jokes is a character that actually tells us something bigger about America, about redemption, and about why superheroes still matter in 2025. So in this video, we're going to break it all down. First, we're going to go back to Peacemaker's bizarre comic book origins. Then we'll see how James Gunn reinvented him. And finally, we'll dig into why his story hits so hard right now. Stick with me because I promise by the end, you'll never look at Peacemaker the same way again. Here's why this video matters. Peacemaker Season 2, as you're watching this, has just dropped. Suddenly, people who didn't care about him at all are debating whether he's DC's best modern anti-hero. That's crazy for a character who, let's be honest, was a C-lister most comic fans ignored. So how did he go from forgotten footnote to HBO Max star? To find out, we've got to start at the very beginning. Peacemaker debuted in 1966 under Charlton Comics. Back then, he wasn't part of DC at all. His whole gimmick was simple but weird. A pacifist so obsessed with peace, he would literally kill for it. That contradiction defined him. Now, Charlton Comics had a small lineup: Blue Beetle, The Question, Captain Atom, and Peacemaker was part of that group. When DC later bought the characters, Alan Moore famously used them as inspiration for Watchmen. Captain Atom became Dr. Manhattan, The Question became Rorschach, and Peacemaker, he became the blueprint for the Comedian. Think about that. One of the most cynical, groundbreaking characters in comics, the Comedian, was inspired by Peacemaker. That alone makes him worth paying attention to. But here's the thing, Peacemaker never reached the A-list. In the 1980s, DC folded him into their universe, gave him a mini-series where he talked to the ghost of his Nazi father, yes, really, but he never broke out. He was violent, unstable, and way too grim for mainstream readers. So decades later, Peacemaker was basically a trivia answer. He'd pop up here and there, but no one cared, which makes the next part of his story even crazier. Fast forward to 2021, James Gunn is making the Suicide Squad. He's got a huge roster of obscure characters to play with, and out of everyone, he decides to bet on Peacemaker. Why? Gunn said it himself. He wanted to take the worst character, the most unlikable guy, and see if he could make people love him. Enter John Cena. Now, Cena had already made the leap from wrestling to acting, but the Suicide Squad was different. He played Peacemaker as this over-the-top, flag-wearing macho idiot. But underneath it all, there were cracks, a hint of sadness, a guy trying way too hard to live up to some impossible idea of himself. And the moment that sealed it, the rooftop scene where he and Bloodsport argue about who's the better shot. It's hilarious, but it also shows just how insecure Peacemaker is. Then came the twist. Peacemaker kills Rick Flag Jr. Suddenly, this joke character became a real threat, a guy whose loyalty to peace made him betray his own team. Gunn didn't just reinvent him, he made him essential. But even then, no one expected what happened next. When Gunn announced a Peacemaker TV show, people laughed. Out of all the DC characters, why this guy? But when season 1 hit, it shocked everyone. Instead of a throwaway spin-off, we got one of the most layered, emotionally raw, and hilarious superhero shows ever.
It'd spend an entire party IFing me from across the room.
Sick.
Dude, I said effing. Any more questions?
On the surface, it's ridiculous. Helmet powers, talking eagles, dance numbers. But underneath, it's about trauma, about toxic fathers, about wanting to be loved, but not knowing how to ask for it. Cena nailed the role. He went from slapstick comedy to breaking down crying in his underwear, and somehow made both moments feel real. That's not easy. And the show gave us Vigilante, one of the funniest sidekicks in superhero television.
That's a lot of rules.
2 fucking rules, 2. 1 yes or no, 2 don't be a fucking moron.
How am I supposed to follow that second rule?
But even more importantly, it showed us that Peacemaker wasn't just a joke anymore. He was broken, vulnerable, and human. And here's where it gets interesting. This story about a crude anti-hero with a toilet bowl helmet actually says something bigger about America itself. Here's the truth. Peacemaker works because he's both a parody and a mirror. On one hand, he's a walking contradiction, peace through violence, patriotism through brutality. That's funny. But on the other hand, it's uncomfortably real. It's America's foreign policy in spandex. But what makes him resonate isn't just the satire, it's the humanity. Peacemaker isn't Superman. He's not Batman. He's a guy who cries over his mistakes, who desperately wants approval, who sings into his hairbrush because he doesn't know how else to cope. And in a world where superhero media can feel predictable, Peacemaker stands out because he's messy. He's funny, tragic, and painfully human all at once. That's why in 2025, he feels so relevant. He's a superhero who's not a hero at all, and maybe that's why we love him. I'll be honest, growing up, I never cared about Peacemaker in the comics. He was a C-lister I barely thought about. But watching Gunn's version, I found myself rooting for him. Not because he's perfect, but because he's broken. And that hit me harder than I expected. Peacemaker isn't just about peace, he's about redemption. Maybe that's why people connect with him now. So here's what I want to know. Is Peacemaker secretly DC's best modern character? Or is he still just a joke in a shiny helmet? Drop your take in the comments down below.